Press the bell icon on the YouTube app to never miss a video from News Laundry.
Welcome to News Laundry Chhota Hafta. For the full episode, subscribe because it is behind the paywall and only subscribers get access to uncut, complete content. News Laundry Hafta is our weekly wrap of all that made the news, all that didn't, and all that should have and all that shouldn't have. We agree, we disagree, we critique, and occasionally we beat each other up. But it's all good fun. Subscribe.
This is a News Laundry podcast and you're listening to NL Hafta.
Hello and welcome to News Laundry Hafta. Angrez apna lagan or News Laundry apna hafta kabhi nahi bhulte. So we're back this week with our weekly podcast. Unfortunately, Abhinandan and Madhu are both missing. They've had some work to attend to, so they haven't been able to make it for this episode. But we have with us two very illustrious guests, which I'm going to introduce. We have with us Sekat Datta. Hi, Sekat.
Hi, Manisha.
Sekat is currently the South Asia editor of Asia Times and policy director of Center for Internet and Society. He's been a journalist for over 21 years. Am I right?
Yes.
Yeah. Worked as a defense correspondent with Indian Express, assistant editor with Outlook magazine, resident editor with DNA, and he was editor national security with Hindustan Times. He's also written a book, India's Special Forces, which speaks on the future of India's special operations capabilities. So we'll benefit with having you here as we discuss the plot to kill the Prime Minister.
Thank you.
We also have with us Saifullah Khan. Welcome, Saif.
Thanks. Hi.
He's been a journalist he has a journalistic experience of over 15 years. He's currently deputy editor with Daily O, which is an opinion website of the India Today group. And before Daily O, he's worked with Times of India and Tehelka.
So, I think you should have started with me after listing out all the illustrious things that Saikat has done. So it's put me in a major insecurity mode.
It's okay. But you have me who's done nothing. So
cool.
Just won a few awards here and there. That's
thank you. 2-3 saal pehle.
Awesome, man. Awesome.
And of course, we have Raman sir with us. Welcome,
Hi.
Raman sir. And me, yours truly. So we have a lot of things to discuss today. It's been an action-packed week. Of course, I think something that really made news last week was the two letters that were leaked into the media, which spoke of an assassination plot. The letters spoke of a Rajiv Gandhi type incident. So we'll discuss that at length. Of course, the drama in Delhi continues. Delhi CM Kejriwal has been in a sit-in dharna at the LG's office. Yesterday, there were big protests. Yashwant Sinha was part of the protest. We have Akhilesh Yadav leaving his former bungalow along with the bathroom fittings. That made news. We also have a very... this is something that really disturbed me, the lynching of 2 boys in Assam. Horrific video that came out of that incident and really brought home how dangerous rumor mongering and fear mongering can be and the dangerous turn of events that it can take. There's also a little bit of a Twitter controversy. It's playing out mostly on Twitter with the chef Atul Kochhar's tweet. He made certain tweets and then that tweet got a lot of backlash, and the restaurant with which he was head chef has decided to discontinue their association with him. So that's really created a lot of liberal versus non-liberal, right versus left kind of a fight on Twitter, which is always fun to observe from far and tough to engage in. So, and of course, there's also the AMU controversy where a bunch of students during Ramzan posted a picture saying Nare Takbir Kingfisher Akbar. That's got them into a soup. AMU student leaders have filed a case against them. The proctor has said that strict action should be taken against them. It'll be interesting to debate that also because it hasn't got much coverage in news media.
Not as much as Jinnah, obviously.
Yeah. So, let's start with the plot to assassinate the Prime Minister. Just to give you a little bit of context, there have been arrests by the Pune police of 5 activists. Following this, there were letters leaked in the media, which were apparently they were procured during a raid in April from one of the accused, Rona Wilson's laptop. These letters talk about carrying out an assassination, a Rajiv Gandhi style incident. It goes into length explaining why we must bring him down because we are against Hindu fascism and all that. And these letters were played by the media, especially the television media, just fell for it hook, line and sinker without any questions asked. Created a huge furore. Sharad Pawar said these are fake. People in the Congress also raised questions on it, but said if it's a plot to kill the Prime Minister, we must investigate into it. So let's talk about this. I think I'll begin with Sekat. I want to first just ask, there is this term UrbanNaxals. popularized by Vivek Agnihotri, and now it's suddenly you see the police also talking about urban Naxals. Yesterday there was Bastar police saying that we've exposed. What do you think of this term? What does it mean? Are there really urban Naxals out there propagating the banned parties ideology? I mean, what is the sense in this term?
So, first of all, I started my career covering the Pune police 22 years ago. And I've never thought the Pune police would go down so much and become such a mockery of themselves by...
You were with Sakal Times, if I'm not mistaken?
I was with a newspaper in those days called Maharashtra Herald, which was bought over by the Sakal group later on. But this is like shameful for the Pune police to go after something this silly and then make a huge noise about it. So that's my personal take. So when we look at Naxals, I mean, these labels have come throughout any insurgency. You will find everybody constantly trying to put some name or the other. For example, in Kashmir, they used to have this term called OGWs, that is overground worker. So that became a convenient term to label people every time the government or the state was unhappy with somebody, and that's a good label to not only discredit whatever they're espousing but also to put them in jail if necessary. So urban Naxals, if you look at Maoist literature, which I mean, when I say Maoist, this is all the three parties after they amalgamated into one singular unit, you know, People's War Group and the others, they all came together. So they have a lot of literature on urban warfare, but they look at it from a military terminology, where they look at, you know, how to conduct urban operations, both which will include psychological operations, information operations, as well as military operations. But they look at it from a very military perspective, and that kind of literature is available. But even the Naxals themselves or the Maoists have never talked about anything called urban Maoist as a separate phenomenon, because for them class warfare is across, whether rural or urban, there is no distinction. But this is a deliberate political term which some people of the right have brought it to discredit just about anybody who challenges their narrative.
Anyone who's also seen to be working against police operations that may not be fair, or arrests that are dubious. Because one of the accused, I believe, was also, he's a lawyer who has really worked against fake trials, so to speak, or arrests that are dubious.
So, for example, if you see some of the key issues for many of these activists, especially from states like Chhattisgarh or even Maharashtra, is Jal, Jangal, Zameen, which is basically the three most important things, whether you're from a tribal community or in rural India. And these have always been the point of exploitation by many corporate groups. And so some of these narratives are built to try and discredit these basic activists and basic fight for basic rights and human rights. So this is all nonsense as far as I am concerned.
So let's move to a next topic. What would you guys like to discuss? Maybe Saif, would you like to choose something that's
I think we can start with Arvind Kejriwal, because that's something that's playing around in our backyard.
So tell us, do you think it's just so many people are cynical with anything that Arvind Kejriwal does? It's like फिर से drama शुरू कर दिया activist Kejriwal ने.
It's bound to be cynical. If you look at AAP's history and the way they go about leveling allegations, and we have recently seen a backtracking of several allegations by none other than the Chief Minister himself. And so there's bound to be some sort of cynicism. There are issues, and there is some truth to the fact that the centre through LG has been causing hurdles. Some initiatives of AAP government in Delhi are actually good, things like Mohalla Clinic, some more initiatives,
the doorstep
delivery of certain documents and stuff like that, which I don't think there is much reason for the LG to intervene and stop it. Generally, it has never... this sort of hostility we haven't seen for quite some time. But the most interesting angle, since I generally look through things from a political prism, is how AAP perceives 2019 and its role in it. That's how I see this big drama that's happening to be. It's a fact that LG and the Delhi government have been having some issues. But if you look recently over the past few months, especially around the time of Karnataka elections, how the grand opposition has come together, AAP has not been able to find its toehold in that opposition unity. You have major opponents like Mayawati, Akhilesh coming together on the same platform, and they're fighting elections. You have got Sharad Pawar, Ajit Pawar. More or less every political party is there. Mamata Banerjee is there. Everyone is there. AAP has to look for its own survival in 2019 also. And it has been making some signals to the Congress, whether it's Delhi or whether it's Madhya Pradesh, whether it's Rajasthan. But right now, it's not getting much traction. So one of my reading is AAP is trying to use this ploy to gain some headline, to gain some sympathy in the run-up. And there are a few more tools that they would use, like something that we have been using for AIMIM, something like a vote katua. If you don't put us in a grand alliance, obviously we will fight on all the seats and cut your votes or stuff like that. But this is one of the ploy. It is very much a political thing that they are doing, keeping 2019 in mind.
Saikat, what is your...
Saif obviously knows the politics much better than me, but the little that I know of AAP, because I've known these people much before they became AAP, they are political novices in some ways. So many of their reactions continues to be in the activist mode which they were before. So their first instinct is to become a victim and play that victim card and really seek sympathy. I don't know whether they do it really well, because at some point I think they've overplayed it and it doesn't seem to be working or paying the political dividends they were hoping it does. So that's one aspect of it. But what's also happening is something very shameful, because if the bureaucracy can cook a snook at an elected government, and an elected government with such a overwhelming majority, I think that's dangerous for democracy. And it shows that the central government, the federal government, can go to any lengths to undermine the opposition. And this is exactly the kind of corruption and rot we had seen in the Indira Gandhi Congress days, when they would try and undermine state governments using any kind of tactic possible. And we are seeing the same thing being repeated. So while the BJP keeps saying Congress Mukt Bharat, they are actually reinforcing Congress Bharat, because in many ways they're picking up the same rot that the Congress had brought in the 70s and the 80s. The next thing is that if you continue to undermine the elected government, what role is the Supreme Court doing? For 6 months, the Supreme Court has been sitting on a judgment and has held a judgment on this they've reserved their judgment. And I am not very hopeful whether they'll come out with a very clear direction. And that also shows that while at some level the elected government is being undermined, even the Supreme Court is playing ball with the central government and not really taking this up as quickly as it should and resolve this issue one way or the other.
For those of you not in the know, the Delhi bureaucracy has been on a strike for almost 4 months. 4 months. 4 months they just don't work. And the last session in the Delhi Assembly, they actually pointed it to this fact very cleverly, because every time there was a question, the AAP minister would say, but the file has not moved because the bureaucrat is not coming to office. So that is one thing, like they genuinely don't have people to work with.
Yeah, but the bureaucracy is saying that they are not on strike. That's their narrative, that they are not on strike. They are answering, all the queries asked on the telephone, but they fear going near to the minister. Okay,
so actually I think I'll pick up Assam lynching of 2 boys. I think that really, I saw the video and I was just shocked, because it's just something that could happen to any one of us. These 2 boys were traveling. They go to this, apparently they took a detour to this village because there's a pond or a waterfall there which is famous for, it has diamond fish, and these guys are really into fishing, so they went there. And this village, which doesn't get much electricity, no newspapers, no television, is mostly fed information. Social media is a big source of their information. And through Facebook, for about 2-3 weeks, they had been fed rumors that there are child traffickers on the loose. And this area actually has a very big child trafficking problem. It's one of the highest instances of child trafficking in this district. So it's a real concern for people there. But they had rumors saying that these guys are on the loose and beware of them. So for about 2 weeks, men from the village were keeping guard. And then rumors also said things like, they impersonate women. They're in a car and all that. And these guys happened to be there, I think, at the most unfortunate time, and everything that could go wrong went wrong. And one of them Atlee had dreadlocks. So, it just, this whole thing about, it matched so much with what the rumors they were being fed, and also the complete, I think it shows in India there are two worlds which have no connection with each other. You have a super urban part which is really moving at a speed, and then you have this rural part which has no idea where, it never has an interaction with the urban space, and so they're suspicious of anything that comes from there. And these boys, I think almost for 2 hours they were beaten with bamboo sticks, and they were pleading throughout, saying that, please, I'm an Assamese, my mother's name is this, my father's name is this, leave me. And they were Assamese and speaking in Assamese with these guys. But I think one of the reasons now that there's like a lot of investigation happening, some of the men were also drunk, so the alcohol had a huge role to play in the violence. But it was absolutely shocking, and just to imagine that this can happen to anyone. Anyone just happens to be in the wrong place at the wrong time could have
it actually brings out the sort of negative effect that social media has major, especially these viral videos or messages that go out on
and
social media.
Rumors that can spread so fast without countering.
Absolutely, and it's not only this. In most of these incidents of lynching, you have, or mob violence, you have this major role of WhatsApp happening, and it's very difficult to actually police these sort of things, because you can't preempt. You have no idea that such thing is going to happen. Especially you have this whole hostile environment, especially in the light of National Register of Citizens and everything, us versus them already happening in Assam, and outsiders, insiders. Especially given in this environment, especially the role of social media, this is something that's been feared for quite some time, and it also questions actually the humanity, like how, on what level it's okay to catch somebody, to hand them over to the police, but to actually see such sort of incidents happening over month and month and month regularly, where you are actually killing people for the sake, just on the basis of some WhatsApp forward, just on the basis of some message that been forward, somebody told you something about that person doesn't actually is not wearing the sort of attire you perceive to be. The other reports also, there was this transgender who was asked by the police to leave the area because, again, fearing for that person's safety. We have these preconceived notions, and especially it's very much there in these cultural, especially in these areas where the mainstream media is not there, where the proper information network is not there, and
there's
only information.
No connection. It's an outside world for them. But still, even so, I was just thinking that 500 people descend for 1.5 hours. You're beating a guy up who's pleading. Not one comes up and says, "Okay, stop. Let's give him to the police."
You haven't even caught him in the act or something.
Yeah. So it's that kind of, it's really a psychology to understand what makes a mob this violent and bloodthirsty.
Sun liya Afrika, mufat khoron. Not to brag or anything, but News Laundry Hafta features in the top 50 in the world on SoundCloud in the news and politics category for podcasts. So do subscribe and see what you're missing, because when the public pays, the public is served. When advertisers pay, advertisers are served. Subscribe, help keep news independent and free. All News Laundry podcasts are available on iTunes and Stitcher and any other podcast platform.